Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a good morning. Well, still focusing on our mental strength, and we have time to think. This is one of the faculty consultants and coach. We have the facilitator, Maryse Barak, with us this morning. Maryse, good morning, and thank you so much for being in studio with us this morning.
Thank you so much. This is a fabulous opportunity to be with you. Good morning to everybody.
Awesome. Maryse, do we ever really sit down and take time to think or overthink something, either after we've done it or before we've done it? Is it something that is it a question that we need to ask ourselves from time to time?
Well, often people say, "Oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time to think," and that really concerns me, because the interesting thing is that whatever we do, or whatever choices we make or actions we take, the quality of those things is only as good as the thinking we did first. So if that is true, then thinking before we do or choose or decide anything is of huge value. Yeah.
Indeed, because, we always say that there's an Afrikaans saying, you can't, or in English rather, if you didn't think before the time, you're obviously going to have some regrets, isn't it? Because you haven't done your best or you didn't give it your all.
Absolutely. But the point about the thinking work that I'm engaged with is that it's not only solo thinking, it's about how do we listen to one another so that we can enable the best thinking in each other.
Indeed, so you need to be a good listener as well.
It's an imperative, and that's the bulk of my work, is how do we learn to listen in such a way that enables people to think.
Indeed. Maryse, what are the components of a thinking environment, do you think?
Well, these are behaviors that were put together by a woman called Nancy Kline, who began this work many, many years ago. And these are ways of being with each other. So one of the key components, if you like, is what's called attention. And the definition of that means listening with huge respect and with no interruption. So just that as a practice is not common in the way in which we engage with each other. So listening with deep respect and no interruption, that's one of the ways of the behaviors that I'm speaking about. And that means also keeping our eyes on each other and being interested in where the other person will go next. Because interest and attention are key drivers of another human being's thinking.
It's amazing that we're speaking about this, because we often think of, giving our children some attention, listening to them. But do we ever go down to their level to have that eye contact with them and to see what it really is that's in their eyes that they want to tell us and want to share with us? Are they happy saying these things? Are they unhappy saying these things? Are they satisfied with the way, we perceive what it is that they are saying?
Oh, I love that. I love what you're saying, because I know that all the parents who may be listening have had the experience at one time or another of their child taking their face in their hands and, saying, "Mommy, listen to me." Because mostly we've got such extraordinarily busy lives that we think we're listening when we're just being quiet. Whereas a child wants our eyes, our attention, our full focus. And it doesn't have to be for long, but it has to be absolute, deliberate, and specific. So you can't do it while you're texting somebody a message, for instance, or watching TV. Yeah.
Maryse, now we're looking at, just the child and perceiving it from a child's perspective. What about, adults, communicating with each other and wanting that attention? Imagine, you're speaking to me and I'm busy jotting down things and I'm not even giving you that eye contact. You're my guest. So I need to treat you, with great respect as a guest as well, because we're gaining some valuable information from you. So, that attention and respect, that I think that the two of them goes hand in hand.
Totally. And it's not something that anyone who's listening doesn't know. We know these things. The point is, do we do them? How do we practice them? Are we deliberate? So human beings need each other's respectful attention in order to explore, to be creative, to be innovative in their thinking. It really has impact. And it's a question of just choosing to do it. So you're looking at me now, and you're interested, and you're smiling, and you're warm, and all of that enables me to think well about what I want to say.
Awesome. So is it saying that you need to do things consciously when you're doing it, and not just haphazardly, but like you said, you need to think before you actually doing those things as well?
Absolutely. So we choose, how do we want to be in the world? What kind of a human being do I want to be? And we get known by these behaviors. So attention, which we've been speaking about, is one. Yeah. Another one is equality, which is treating people as our thinking peers. Yeah. So that when they're in our presence, they know that they matter. How can we do that where we work or in our homes? How do we enable people to really get that they matter?
So it doesn't, matter what it is that you do, even within in the work environment, whether you bring my cup of tea for me when I'm thirsty, whether you bring me a glass of water, whether you sweep the floors, whether you're the one sitting behind the computer, doing all the communications, on air as well. Everyone who works here really matters, and that is equality, isn't it?
Yeah. And so the difficult question is, how do we enable people in our workplaces to have the experience that they do matter? What do we do? Yeah, to help them have that experience, and ourselves as well. It's quite a big piece. We don't often speak about equality. We speak about diversity and transformation, but how do we demonstrate equality? It's quite a big piece of work.
Indeed. So you focus now on attention as well as equality. Are there many other components to the thinking environment? Tell us more about it.
Great. Well, Nancy put together 10 of these components. Another one, which again is there are none of them that you don't know already, okay? It's a question of demonstrating what we do know. Another one that I would choose is appreciation, which is a genuine acknowledgement of somebody else's qualities. So to take the time and the awareness to notice what a person is demonstrating in front of you and to tell them. So to appreciate the sense of humor, to appreciate their integrity, but to tell them. And equally with our children, what is it that we notice about them that's particular to them that we could appreciate? So appreciation is a bit like food. Human beings, we need it.
Indeed. It's amazing, Maryse, when you speak about appreciation. It's sometimes when you give meager tasks to your children and they haven't done it the way you wanted, instead of appreciating what they have done, we always look at what they haven't done, unfortunately. This is just how we are, isn't it? But this, bring about this consciousness and, the thinking before we're saying it. So, before we say you haven't done this, rather think to yourself what it is that they have done, that they've done, to the best of their ability, instead of saying, but you haven't done what I wanted you to do.
Yes, and I want to add something, because appreciation isn't about saying thank you for a job well done, because sometimes a job isn't well done, and we have to be able to speak the truth well.
True.
Yeah. Appreciation is about acknowledging the human being that's before you, and that's different from saying thank you. It's be able to see well, again, I'm going to come back to you because you're giving me such quality of attention as I'm speaking. And the connectivity with you is so easy, and I appreciate that.
You're
so it's
welcome.
being able to see in the children or the people that we work with, what is it that's uniquely theirs that they bring so generously, and tell them what we appreciate.
Awesome. And on that note, unfortunately, we need to go for air. So listeners, stay tuned. If you want to just get more in touch with your self-being and also, with the thinking faculties of yourself, we will be chatting once again to Maryse Barak after this ad break. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning. Your 10am Express, your host Aisha Lato, and we're speaking about time to think, and this is the thinking environment that we are currently, focusing on with Maryse Barak, who's the facilitator at the Time to Think faculty, consultant, and a coach as well. So a big thank you, Maryse, for being in studio with us this morning, giving us those great reminders of who we are and how we should be doing things as well. And thinking is something that, we often don't put much thinking into thinking. And like you said, it's only after the deed is done that we thought that we should have, then it's way too late already. But you've mentioned some of these great aspects and components that makes up great thinking as well, which is your attention and equality, which you've mentioned earlier on, and appreciation. Now, those are just 3 of the qualities that you have mentioned, and I'm sure you mentioned earlier on 10 as well. Now, when it comes to the corporate world and when it comes to parenting, I'm sure there's a great difference. But, there's no difference when it comes to thinking something through before, approaching either the opportunity or the person that you wish to speak to as well.
Well, what I'm seeing in my own experience now, especially at work, is how we need each other in order to think something through well. And these are the components that I've just mentioned, and the others are ways that we can be together in that enable superb thinking to happen. So the quality of listening, the quality of attention, also the quality of welcoming diverse perspectives and points of view. Because when we have multiplicity of views before us, like in a business meeting context, for instance, then we can think much better. And also reality is diverse. It has this whole array of extraordinary different ways of seeing and being and opinions and perspectives. And when we welcome these, then when we think together, our thinking is much enriched because reality is diverse. So these are all ways in which these elements, if you like, are used in business.
Indeed, and it also speeds up productivity, isn't it?
Well, productivity, I tell you, one of the things that does speed and enable productivity is genuine appreciation. When people in leadership of any kind genuinely appreciate their people begin to thrive and go the extra mile. And everybody knows that. We just don't always, as I said before, do what we know.
Indeed. You're saying not always do what we know, but it's because it's all about the I, thinking of what I want and where I want to find myself, instead of thinking collectively where we can all be, at the same time, such as, not just in your family environment, but especially in a business environment, when all these ideas and, the thinkers coming together and thinking of different ways. We might have the same topic, but you think of it quite different to how I think of it. And that is what is important, because where is the commonality in that thinking?
That really enthralls me when I do work with teams, with business teams, is when they begin to, listen to the diversity of perspective and then begin to see the connections between them. Because life is so complex. The problems that businesses have to deal with these days are hugely complex. And one or two minds alone do not solve it. And so we have to see and welcome the different opinions and perspectives and experiences that people along the whole business chain have. Because the broadest picture that we have enables us to see the broadest possibilities.
Indeed. So where do one's feelings come in here? Because we all know that if my thinking is not going to be, if I've thought something and I've raised my opinion, but it's not taken, so how am I going to be feeling about this? Am I thinking of myself only, or am I thinking of, collectively, or the overall product that we all thinking about here?
Well, I suppose that depends on the company and the leadership and how committed people are to the end result and the end product. But the way to get towards that commitment for me is, how do we create an environment where people experience that they matter, that they are appreciated, that they will be told the truth. And you've just mentioned the word feeling, which is another one of the behaviors, is how good are we, at home or in business actually, at being able to welcome feelings as relevant, that they matter. There's a very interesting thing that Nancy Kline says, that it's only after the sufficient release of feeling that thinking comes back. And I think we all know that when we have an intense feeling, our thinking is diminished. It's not that good. And if we repress that feeling, then we can't think very well. But if we have opportunity to express the feeling, soon after, good thinking will return.
So here we speak about, that open communication, which is so very important as well, expressing one's feelings. So are you saying that when you suppress those feelings and you don't let the next person know what that feelings are like, you'll never be able to move beyond that?
Well, I think that's kind of a very strong statement. Yes, I do believe that. But in a business context, it's about enabling a certain level of feeling to be expressed. In business, I often hear people saying, let's leave feelings out of this. Well, human beings can't do that. And so it's very helpful to be able to name the feeling and then move on. And that's, culturally we still have to learn that in business.
Okay. To our listeners, we're speaking to Maryse Barak. We will be back after this ad break. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a warm welcome. Our final segment before we end our 10 a.m. Express this morning with none other than our special guest, facilitator for Time to Think, faculty consultant and coach, and that is Maryse Barak. And we're speaking about, the components making up the thinking environment as well. Now, Maryse, you've mentioned quite a few, then I'm sure there are many more that you would want to bring to the attention of our listeners this morning, as well as the fact that you'll be hosting one of those workshops as well.
Great, yes. So I'm just going to say one more component now.
Please do.
Which is the one called encouragement. And it's a beautiful one, because the word courage comes from the French cœur, which means heart. And to encourage another person means to stand by their heart, to really enable them to go beyond what they think they can, to stand by them, and to be able to do that in our relationships of every day, both at work and at home, is one of the key components of the thinking environment. How do we encourage each other to go beyond competition, but to where we're at our best? And in relationship to that, I'm giving a workshop on the 29th of July for Symphonia Leadership Development. It will be at the waterfront. And for bookings, can I give the number?
Yes, please do.
It would be great if you booked with Jolene at this number, 021-913-3507. And I'll be giving what's called a masterclass in the thinking environment on the 29th of July.
Maryse, do you often host these workshops locally?
Not too many open workshops, because the bulk of my work is in large organizations where I work with executives and leadership teams, where we work mostly on how can we generate an environment in the team itself where the conversations can be very robust, inclusive, and affirming. Yeah.
Maryse, so hosting these workshops, outside, of your normal environment, is it to encourage, young people or elders or people in business who not always have the opportunity, to be in your company and to benefit from the workshops that you host, to come to these and come along and see how you can benefit from it?
It's a fabulous day, and anyone is absolutely welcome. It's a very experiential day. So I do a little bit of lecturing, but most of the day is practice, because what we've been speaking about in this interview are, as I said, the things we know, but we need to practice. So you'll be working in pairs and small groups. It's fun and it's hugely useful because there are things that you take home immediately.
What are some of the great, feedback from those who attend? Please do share some with us.
Okay, that's a bit tricky. I get delighted with the feedback. People love that they can practice immediately. People love that actually they do know this, but that they can begin to be encouraged to really practice with one another. People speak about the difference that it makes with their teenagers when they begin to really listen to a 15-year-old who hardly ever speaks anyway, okay. But to take the fabulous opportunity that when they do speak, the parent listens without saying a word and keeps their eye on them while they're speaking, and then doesn't say anything until they're done. And then when they're done, the parent may just say, is there more? Because, when we speak to each other, there's always more.
Indeed. So it's obviously also encouraging communication, not just in the work environment, but also with your family as well, which sometimes it's greatly amiss in families, isn't it, unfortunately? I must say a big thank you for being with us this morning, and all the success with your forthcoming workshop on the 29th at the V&A Waterfront. They need to book via Symposium, and the contact number once again.
Great. So the company through which it is called Symphonia.
Symphonia.
And the number is 021 913-3507. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. That was a wonderful time. Thank you.